Well, hey, broadcast audio guys. Got some pretty major changes this week, and really, guys, I maybe should have given you more notice, but what is done is done anyway. So I want to share a few things with you, what I've done on the board. To first of all start with is we have some new firmware update. You shouldn't see much visibly different on the board, except for a few minor things. And so you'll see that it's showing at the bottom here, version 22, whatever. And there are more major changes I'll get into a second, but some more minor changes. They've added some new mustard processing. So if you're on a compressor, for example, there, if you go to type, there's now the Dyne Silver. I probably can't. Anyway, I'll press, you can see it better. Dyne Silver. Boy, overexposing here, but anyway. And it is the silver compressor here. And it's a leveling amp. It's much more like an LA2A kind of thing, which we also have on the Waves, but they now make one themselves. So that's a nice little handy feature. There's a few other little odds and ends here and there, which are not overly significant. But what's more significant is that we have changed how we're going to do the virtual sound check stuff. So we were using Reaper and the Bridge audio, the Bridge software to bridge them together. But with this firmware update, they've now have their own software called LiveTrax3 from the same parent company. And this is what the logo looks like here. I'll quickly go through how to work with it. So we'll fire that up, and it'll come up with either you open up a recent session or you can make a new one. And then I have this template here. So if you double click on the template or just click on it, and then it should default to the right section right there. And then we put in the name here. I'll just call this one Test 4 because I've made 3 other ones earlier. Test 4 there, and hit open. It should come up with UB MADI 48 kilohertz. This should always be correct, so you should be able to hit just start. Takes a little second to fire up. And then I've made a functional template here. It can actually just grab the channel naming and stuff from the mixing board, but the way we have it set up, we have more channels than we have space for. So I've just made this template. So it's got all the typical channels here, very much like Reaper had. And then the pastors. But the way this works with grouping, instead of having to have the record enable groups at the top like Reaper had, this one, the grouping can do record enable. So by clicking on any one thing on the record enable, you can get rid of that entire group. So at the beginning of a service, if it's not defaulted already to be fully record enabled, you can just press that to have everything. But then when we get through the announcements, then you can click on any one of these, and you'll be left with just the pastors and those types of things, crowd mics. One thing we've added as well is a Digico master, and basically really wanted another backup of the mix that's coming off the board. So because every so often the other recorder fails or gets forgotten or whatever, so just have a backup of that would be nice. It also means we're not recording the spares up here. Actually, they're showing, but they're actually not recording. And I might just fix that up before I send this out. But so those spares won't work. And the way this works, I've tested everything as much as I can without having a full band here. Even right now, I have the drum kit just running one of their loops, and you see signals are coming through nicely. And the way the macros work, they're still in the 4th bank. Still hit virtual sound check to go back and forth from using that or the live. But now it's LiveTrax play, LiveTrax record arm, and LiveTrax stop. So the way this one works is when you hit LiveTrax record arm, you see it starts flashing up the record button, but doesn't actually start recording automatically. So if you have channels record enabled, actually you can't do that while it's record arm, never mind here. So you have it all record enabled, then hit record arm, starts flashing. It's not actually recording yet. It's like a record ready. So this is the only one thing that's maybe not quite as nice. Everything else about the software I think is a little nicer. So then if you hit play, when it's record armed, then it starts recording. And as you see, since those drums are rolling, you should start seeing waveforms pop in a second. Oh, I'm in the wrong spot on it. There we go. And I think I like the way the display is even a little nicer. It's a little bit tighter. And you can change what you want to look at while it's running. So like, for example, if you want to get rid of those extra bars on top for whatever reason, you can click this button here. Or if you want to get rid of the waves too, or you can't do it while it's recording, but otherwise you can. Or you can add a mixing board function on the bottom. Interesting thing, not sure if we'll use it, but there's an RTA on these channels, so you could have an RTA on an individual channel. Maybe let's throw it onto the kick while it's running. You can see that RTA for the kick. So if that's helpful, we can use that. Not sure if it will be, but nice little feature. And then, of course, if you want to stop it, you hit just LiveTrax stop. It all stops, nicey nice. And then you just got to save the session. Just Command S or session save. And that will be that. I think it's definitely a simpler way to work. If you have a session, I think I would love everybody to be using this, but if you have a really big built-in session and you aren't quite ready to use this for the first weekend, I did set it up so that if you load the old Reaper template and an old book, they'll still work together, and I tested all that. But if you use the new book and old Reaper template, a few channels will get missed, not that many, probably nothing of critical nature, but yeah, a few things might get missed, so it's not quite current, but it will all still work if you want to use an old one. But I would prefer that everybody would move to this. It means you might have to start with my session. So what I've done is I've made the session a default, a more proper default. So if you go to File, Load Session. So it's the one I've made on, oh man, I want to overexposing. There we go. So you see there, it's default session, 2026-04 default session. And that is going to have all of these changes to make sure it works with the right channels for LiveTrax. But it also has a few extra changes. So a few things that people requested from me. Maybe I should have asked everybody. But I've, on the processor, made the delays part of the start point scene. On the reverbs, on waves, I've gotten rid of the pre-delays in the start point, and more of a major one. So on the vocals, so we're going to still always use the aux to faders to send the vocals, see vocal 1 into the right reverbs. But what I've done is I've taken and routed the different reverbs to the different vocal groups. So if I go back to the reverbs here and you tap on the bottom, see now the lead vox short, instead of just going to the master, is going to the lead vocal group. And that way, if you turn that lead vocal group up or down, the reverbs are going to go up and down with it. And this will still get the right reverbs, because if you go through each song and change what's sending into the lead and background vocal reverbs, then they'll still get to the right groups and they'll still get to the right place. You don't have to change this with every song. So that'll be a nice feature as well. I think that's all the main stuff. I think this is going to work a little bit nicer and a few little tweaks. Especially like the way the LiveTrax works. And the thought is too that the Reaper was working great, but it might eventually stop being supported, or the little bridge software might stop working at some point. So for now, I thought this was a good way to do this, and it was a cheap software, and I think it works really well. So any more questions, just let me know if I forgot anything here. I think this is a nice little upgrade. All right, take care, guys.